Okay, if you clicked on this video, then you probably either saw a thumbnail of me hurting myself or maybe just a title of me talking about how I injured my wrist. And it's not clickbait, I actually did injure myself. And I want to tell a story, and I also kind of want you to take a lesson from it. So basically, I've been going to the gym pretty consistently for about like 4 or 5 months now, and some of my friends are probably going to watch this video and say like, no, that there's no way that he actually goes to the gym. Yes, I've been going to the gym consistently for about 4 months now. Been weightlifting, just doing HIIT workouts as well, and just trying my best to take care of my health. And about a week or two ago, I actually injured my wrist doing a clean press. And then I actually went to a doctor to get it x-rayed as well because it was a little bit swollen, and it was just hurting for like a good week at that point, right? So tried to get an x-ray because I was scared that I might have just fractured my wrist, or maybe even just a hairline fracture or stress fracture. Thankfully though, the x-rays came back negative, and it was basically determined that I either have a wrist sprain or a wrist strain. So now, because of that, because of this injury that you see over here, I'm not able to actually go to the gym or actually do any type of like weightlifting or like physical activity, because I obviously don't want to injure it again. But I'm basically out for about 4 to 6 weeks now. Now, I'm pretty scared about what's going to happen in the next 4 to 6 weeks, because I feel like I'm just going to dive into my old terrible habits and just gain the weight that I actually did lose, and maybe even possibly lose my gains as well. I understand 4 to 6 weeks in the grand scheme of things is not that much, but it's a good month. It's a good month and a half of just no physical activity, even though I could just start running, which I might just do as well, because it's not gonna strain my wrist in any way. But the reason why I tell this story, the reason why I bring all of this up is because there's two perspectives that you can actually have whenever something like this happens to you. The one perspective that you can have, that I could have had as well, is that, oh man, like, why is this happening? Like, just when I was starting to make a good schedule, just when I was starting to see progress in my life as well, in my weightlifting journey, and you're kind of just set back now. It's like the universe doesn't want you to succeed, and you're basically just stuck into the same hole, and you have this setback that happens, which just kind of puts you back into that dark place again. That's perspective number one. Perspective number two is always like, wait, it could have always been worse. Maybe I was pushing myself way too hard in the gym. Maybe my body was actually breaking down on me. And because of that, I needed a little bit of a minor setback just so I can get out of the gym and just rest at home before some major damage actually happened to my body. Because one thing about me is that whenever I do end up pushing myself, I end up pushing myself a little bit too hard, and I exhaust myself. If I am just going all into something, it's either I'm completely resting like 24/7, or I'm completely all into what I actually want to do. I don't necessarily know how to find a good balance in life between work and rest, and play and rest, or whatever the case might be. But maybe I needed this. Maybe this was the rest that I needed, and God was like, hey, I know this idiot is not going to rest by himself, so I need to make him sit at home for it. And that's perspective number two, that you are grateful for even the small calamities, the small trials that actually happen in your life, because you see the goodness within them. I mentioned that I actually went to the doctor and I got it x-rayed because I was scared that it might be a fracture as well, right? Obviously, a fracture would have been much worse than me just spraining my wrist. There's no damage to any of my bones, so this is going to heal, and I hope that it heals properly, and if I rest properly, it probably is just going to heal properly, and then I can go back into the gym, and then I could just work my way back up again. It's much better that this happened to my wrist rather than me spraining my knee or something that would have caused me not to be able to walk properly, right? That's another perspective that you can also have. That's another perspective that I could have also had. That like, hey, look, like I much rather have an injury to my wrist than any other part of my body, right? Like, what if my shoulder gave out? My entire arm would have just been in pain. What if my knee gave out? What if my ankle was just completely sprained and I was out and I couldn't walk properly and I couldn't even run? I can go out and run right now. I can go out and just, hang out with my friends whenever I want to. I'm not dependent upon any crutches. I'm obviously a little bit limited of the daily tasks that I need to do because of this brace and because of, I can't really put any weight or pressure on this. But other than that, I'm able to basically do every single thing that I was able to before. It's not completely debilitating for me or life altering. It's just something that is temporarily there. It's a temporary setback, and then I'll come back and I'll be better than ever. So, what can we exactly learn from something like this whenever these small things happen to you? Whether you're in a small accident, you have a fender bender, whether you have a wrist sprain, or maybe even if you have any type of injury whatsoever, you should always remember that it could always been worse. See, I think as human beings, we do ourselves a disservice because we think that we have planned out our life so meticulously, so beautifully, and so perfectly that anytime anything goes wrong for us, we're just thinking about, oh my God, this fantasy land that I actually created in my head would have been absolute perfection. And yet, we think that the decisions that we were to make for ourselves are probably the best decisions. And just not have hope and not have faith. And I think that's complete BS because think about this. Imagine how many decisions that you have made which have been completely stupid, which have been completely idiotic, that have landed you in a lot of trouble. At least for me, there's been a lot of decisions that I have made for myself that I probably should have faced many more consequences than I actually did. So you need to think about the flip side of things as well, that hey, maybe you don't know everything and you don't. Your plan is probably not perfect, and maybe your decisions were leading you down a hole that you were going to cause severe damage to yourself, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, any type of way, really. But we just don't think like that. We just think that we're the best people of planning our own lives, that our ego just gets into the way, and that we can't even see the flaws in our own plans. And we need to start seeing the flaws in our own plans. You need to take these small calamities that happen in your life and appreciate them and accept them, and then just internalize them and say, hey man, it could have definitely been much worse. I could have been dead. I could have lost a loved one. I could have maybe lost my entire arm or my entire wrist. Like I have all of these things still, and this is just a minor setback, but I'm still gonna make it through. It might not be on the timeline that I wanted, but it's probably going to be on the timeline that you actually need everything to fall in place. So I say that as a Muslim. I say that looking at it from a very religious perspective, that hey, Allah is going to make sure that I get and I receive anything that I have been destined for at the right time. If Allah wants me to sit at home and I'm not doing that, he's gonna make me sit at home, right? Like this. Maybe I was destined to have a accident while going to the gym over the next month or something. And just because Allah didn't want me to potentially just pass away in an accident or severely injure myself, he's like, I need to make him sit at home some way. So this is the injury that he gave me, so I could just sit at home and not be at that specific time and place where that accident was written for me. So again, a small calamity is always better than the big calamity. And the calamity that you have right now, the calamity that you're going through right now, the trial and tribulation that you have right now, it's always going to be small compared to what could have actually been. So I want you to keep that in mind. Even if you're not a religious person, even if you're just an atheist, or you just don't believe in God, or you're secular, keep that in mind, that anything that befalls you was always going to befall you in the first place, right? You probably believe in the power of the universe or the power of yourself. You have to understand that there's so many things that are outside of your control that you're not going to be able to meticulously plan everything. That you should just take the test, the trials, the blessings, and all the good and the bad all together, and just accept it and just say, yeah, it is what it is. Ball up top, like life goes on. It really is what it is. So I want you to keep that in mind and know that it could have always been worse. It helps at times, trust me. It's not the end of the world either. So I want you to just remember that. All right, I think I've ranted on for a little bit too long. I hope that helped. I hope it gave you a little bit of perspective. I'm not really open about like sharing personal things in my life, but this was just something that I felt like a lot of people could potentially relate to, so that's why I'm actually sharing it. And of course, to show your appreciation for me, remember to hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.